guys, welcome to a very special episode. Today's episode is especially interesting for people who are interested in making movies, in learning more about movies, because we have two very special guests with us today. We have Satyanshu Singh, Urf Sati. You guys all know Sati. He's been on the channel many times before. Sati, of course, also ran AIB First Draft, which was a screenwriting school. And Pulkit was one of the students at First Draft, who not only went on to write more things, but also directed his first short film that went to Tribeca Film Festival.
Yeah, it was insane. Just seeing all the moving parts of how a film is made, because writing is more like writing the blueprint, right? So figuring out how all those things come together like a symphony was really cool. And also having complete control and accountability, no one else to depend on, which is how short films often are. So really enjoyed that.
And I'm asking this because, Sat, much like Pulkit, there are many writers that you encounter who not only want to write a film, but they also eventually want to also direct and be more involved in their creation. And for people like those, we are bringing First Draft back with something special, with a new twist to it. Sadi, can you explain?
2 seasons of First Draft that we did was for screenwriters. 6 months were dedicated to train these writers. It was very intense and exhaustive. And, for me, it was 6 months of my life was devoted entirely to this. I realized that it was getting increasingly difficult for me to make time like that, to have 6 months dedicated for something like this. Meanwhile, I was also encountering a lot of young filmmakers who have made a short film which is really special, like Pulkit's. I've seen his film, and I know that there are some filmmakers, you see their short film and you know that there is something special here in this guy. Their directorial vision is at par with industry standards. And I realized that if these people get some kind of mentoring, if these people get some kind of guidance, their directing career can get a push. The new version of First Draft is for directors, and it's a 2-year-long fellowship. I'm not calling it a course because we'll not be conducting regular lectures. But it'll be 2 years of being in touch with me and other fellows as we exchange our knowledge and passion for filmmaking, which will involve different aspects of filmmaking. So that over the next 2 years, their journey towards their first film becomes slightly better. That's the idea behind the First Draft Fellowship.
And how many people are going to be fellows in the new First Draft Fellowship?
So we'll select 6. We already have hundreds and thousands of people applying, but we'll select 6. This time, a very important criterion is that you must have made a short film which is good. So that is
which
a very
good also.
Yeah, I mean, because of the competition, if you want to be in top 6, it will matter. So that's the idea.
And now coming to the agenda for this video, Sat. How does one become a film director? Rather, actually, if you're a writer, how is film direction different for both of you?
Let's have Pulkit answer first, because Pulkit discovered cinema through screenwriting, and then eventually discovered his passion for directing and graduated into becoming a director. Unlike me, who wanted to be a director and wrote my film that I could direct. Okay, so
I'll only speak from a very subjective experience, which was, looking back, I feel like finding writing was nearly accidental. Like it could have been directing quite easily. It was just what my inlet was at the time. With writing, I often found it to be a fairly solitary process. Even if you're running a writer's room, at some point you're going to break off and sort of do your own labor. So it can be a lot of processing on your own. 3.5 years in, and then 6 months of First Draft included, I felt like that I really liked doing that. But there were 2 things. One, creatively, I felt like I wanted to collaborate more often. I wanted to be outside more. I wanted to be involved in other parts of things and wasn't just this. And I felt quite cut off from the rest of the world while just doing writing. The second thing was just not having enough control in the process. I just thought that because writing is often the inception of things, you are the first one hired. And then once your job is done, it's just gone somewhere, if it goes anywhere. So I just felt as a writer, I did not have enough creative control over my own material, which I struggled with as someone who wants control. After doing it, I realized how different the processes are. I mean, and now I'm doing a short again that I've written for quite a while, and then I'm going to direct. It's almost like taking one hat off and putting a new one on.
So in some sense, sad writing is like having full control over your imagination and the words that are going on paper, and making the film is like now I have to let go of some control because I can't impact everything. Right? Like that's what he meant by an adventure. Like you don't know how much control you're gonna
Yeah,
have.
you lean into the chaos. Strangely, you direct so that you have more creative control, but the very act of directing is leaning into the lack of it.
Yeah,
And those two things are both kind of true.
yeah. I've been shooting for the last 4 months, and the only constant is that every day you make some compromises. You just need to know what to do with the compromises and how to make those compromises. See, all of us dream of making something special and big, and what Pulkit said was interesting, that you want to step out and collaborate with others, and that's why you want to direct and not just write. And the second thing he said, that he thought that there'll be more creative control. Now these two sentences, I think it goes well with Pulkit, because I know Pulkit, and before he started his directing career, he met with me and said, do you think it's okay if I try that? And knowing Pulkit, I said, do it, because directing is a personality thing. Okay. It's not easy to step out of your room and collaborate with people. It's not easy at all. Having creative control, as we just figured, can be messy as a director. You are told on a certain day that you are shooting in a classroom where some 100 students are supposed to be there, but the only 40 people have turned up. Okay. Now you have two options. Either you wait, and every 5 minutes is a few thousands of rupees.
Correct.
Okay, when you're shooting a big production. So either you can wait for other extras to turn up, or you will have to start shooting with these 40 people. Now, how do you fill a classroom meant for 100 with 40 people? Okay. And you don't have time to solve this. You have to solve this in 2 minutes.
Close up. Close up shoot करो पहले.
Yeah. So उससे क्या होता है कि with your DOP, with your production designer, you have prepared a design for the shoot. You have spent a couple of months designing things. And every day you are forced with situations which changes the design. Like I was shooting something recently, and there was a scene where a guy is being brought to some place in a van. Okay. And we shot, and that's the first appearance of that guy. Okay. And that van was very important for the design. And then we get to know that we didn't get the van. Now we have to shoot without the van. Okay. So then we had to redesign everything in a way where you feel that there is a van when there is none. Okay. हाँ,
ऐसे ये कैसे किया?
ये ऐसे होता है कि वैन के आगे एक गाड़ी है, जो स्क्रिप्ट में भी है कि वैन के आगे एक गाड़ी है, उस गाड़ी में एक बंदा है, हम गाड़ी में उसके पीछे बैठे हैं और वो गाड़ी से पीछे मुड़ के देखता है. तो जब वो पीछे मुड़ के देखता है तो आपको फील होता है पीछे कोई है. फिर वो गाड़ी से उतरता है, गाड़ी से उतर के फिर से पीछे मुड़ के देखता है, तो आपको लगता है कोई कुछ तो है ना पीछे. और उसके अलावा साउंड डिजाइन आएगा जिसमें पीछे आपको वैन का साउंड
आएगा,
गेट खुलेगा, उससे एक बंदा निकलेगा, तो वो इस तरह करके हम बनाते थे. अल्टीमेटली इट्स लाइक प्लेइंग चेस, where you have to make one move but then think of 10 moves ahead. Okay. And you don't have time, and a lot of money is riding on you. Okay. So it becomes really messy. Now I don't want to decide everything, but as a director, unfortunately, you have to decide everything. And in a minute you'll have to take 20 decisions. And when you do this, in fact, Tanmay, you told me once that our brain is not wired to take too many decisions in a day, right? There's a fixed number of decisions that we can take optimally. As a director, you have to do that every time, and that's
unoptimal decisions.
Yeah, and that's why it's a personality thing. I can tell, because I directed Chintu, and then for 4 years I did not direct. I did not want to direct. I wanted that solitude that Pulkit is talking about. I wanted to stay inside my room and write, because that gives me sanity. Directing is insane, and that's why you may think that you are the writer, or you have your creative vision, and that's why you are the best person to direct. But directing is not that. Directing is not having a vision. Directing is everything beyond that.
मैंने आपको देखा है सेट पे, मैंने अनुराग को भी देखा है सेट पे. Like Anurag Kashyap and probably say Rajkumar Hirani have very different styles of being on set, right? So I want to ask both of you as directors, आपका style अगर कोई और describe करता कि what kind of a person you are, what do you think they would say?
I don't think I have a style yet. I was doing my best. I was doing my best, but everything was going wrong, and trying to be nice to people and
But
trying
तो
to make
plan
them
करके
feel
कहता है
like
कि ये चाहिए आज और यही लेके मैं
yeah,
निकलूंगा.
unless it's a very exceptional situation, I don't see any reason for anyone to not be calm. Like I think it's the whole calm within all of that storm going on. That's the quality people need to have, and also the kind of how the set should feel like, in my opinion.
Dhoni.
But yeah, that's really it.
See, people who know me know that I prepare a lot, I plan a lot, and set par jaake, I follow some of my plans. I don't follow all of my plans. So that's kind of surprising for a lot of young people on set because they saw how intensely I plan. Or set I'm changing things. But only people who know me very well see that. Most people don't know me well. A set has, say, like the set where I'm shooting currently has some 180 people. And most of them, 99% of them don't know me, don't know how I work. So I'm sure to them, I appear like a clueless guy who is trying to be calm. Clueless because I actually like to discover things on set. I'll give you an example. First day of shoot, 4 months ago, two of very senior actors, they are playing husband and wife. They descend from the stairs and come to their front porch. I called for a rehearsal and they descended the stairs. And the front porch was crowded with people. Light men, camera is attendant, sound guys, AD team, art team, production guys, they were just crowded. So I asked all of them to leave the set. I asked them to go into other rooms and corridors. And I said something, I said, जब ये एक्टर सीढ़ी से नीचे उतरे तो उन्हें लगना चाहिए वो अपने घर में है. Okay. Now this thing, the actors really appreciated it. Later they are telling me that इस तरह ये बहुत special बात है जो आपने मुझे कहा, आपने हमें कहा. But for the team it's very difficult because the boom operator wants to see the movement so that he can plan how to hold the boom.
Correct.
The AD team needs to know what are the props they are using. Okay. So every person is there for a reason. वो ऐसा नहीं कि वो पिकनिक मनाने आए, right? तो जब मैं ऐसे करता हूँ तो I'm sure most of them feel like कि इसको आता नहीं है. I know someone commenting about me on the set कि सत्यांशु सर कभी एडी नहीं रहे हैं ना.
उनको पता नहीं दुख दर्द पीड़ा क्या होती है पूरे क्रू की. What people usually assume the way to become a director, right? एक तो राइटिंग रूट है, ये मेरी स्क्रिप्ट है मैं ही डायरेक्ट करूंगा, which there are two gentlemen here who have decided to do that, right? Then the other route is the AD route. What are the other routes that you can use to become a director? And is it necessary to be an AD to someone? Like, what do you need to become a director?
I have never been an AD. Maybe I'm a pain for others, but personally, I feel that I don't lack much because, in fact, I think कि हमारे देश में सिनेमा का एडुकेशन इतना लैकिंग है कि हमारे पास डायरेक्टर बनने का रास्ता ये हो गया कि आप पहले एडी बन. जबकि वेस्ट में आप देखोगे इतने फिल्म स्कूल्स हैं, हर शहर में फिल्म स्कूल है. तो इम्पोर्टेंट मेरे हिसाब से ना इम्पोर्टेंट दो ब्रॉड चीजें हैं आपको डायरेक्टर बनने के लिए. एक चीज इम्पोर्टेंट है कि आपको क्रिएटिव विजन क्या होता है वो समझ में आना चाहिए. योर जॉब इज टू फोल्ड. वन इज योर जॉब इज क्रिएटिव एंड योर जॉब इज मैनेजरियल. ओके. So the creative part of your job is twofold again. One is you have to make the best possible film from this script. Secondly, you have to make the best possible film with these resources. अभी ये दोनों चीजें एकदम दो अलग-अलग स्कूल ऑफ ट्रेनिंग है. Best creative film, best film from this script is your craft, is your understanding of image, your understanding of sound, your understanding of edit, your understanding of how to work with actors, right? But how to make the best film out of these resources is that chess game that I'm talking about, okay? When you plan your film and you tell your producers that we'll need 5,000 extras throughout the shoot, total number of extras is 5,000, और आपको प्रोड्यूसर बोलते हैं हम 2,000 देंगे. तो अब ये 2,000 एक्स्ट्रास को आप कैसे यूज करोगे? आपने किसी दिन बोल दिया कि मुझे तो चाहिए 100 एक्स्ट्रास, और जब एक्स्ट्रास आए तो आपको रियलाइज हो यार इतनी की जरूरत नहीं है. वहां पर आपने एक नुकसान कराया, अपना भी कराया ना. लेकिन वो एक एक पैसा जो है वो इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो दैट बिकम्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट थिंग एंड द टफेस्ट थिंग इज टू मैरी द टू. सी अगर मैं आपको बोलता हूँ कि आप 100 रुपए में फिल्म बनाओ, जैसी बनानी बनाओ, घटिया बनानी बनाओ, 100 रुपए में बनाओ, तो इट्स नॉट अ टफ टास्क. और अगर मैं आपको बोलता हूँ बढ़िया फिल्म बनाओ, जितने पैसे में बनाना है बनाओ, आप बढ़िया फिल्म बनाओ, तो अगेन इट्स नॉट दैट टफ. जब मैं आपको बोलता हूँ अच्छी फिल्म बनाओ और 100 रुपए में बनाओ, तब वो हो जाता है डिफिकल्ट, क्योंकि आपको क्रिएटिव विजन भी अपना प्रिजर्व करना है, लेकिन आप पैसे को लेके भी आपको केयरफुल रहना है. All of this forms your creative side of directing.
इससे एक चीज याद है मुझे, एक कोट था कि फास्ट चीप एंड गुड यू कैन ओनली हैव एनी टू बट नॉट ऑल थ्री. यू कैन बी फास्ट एंड गुड बट इट वोंट बी चीप. इट कैन बी चीप एंड गुड बट इट वोंट बी फास्ट, right? It can be fast and cheap but it won't be good.
I feel like it really helps to admit the cluelessness and be vulnerable, because the more you try to look like you know what you're doing, the more distance that comes. So I was very careful with my first shot, for example, to find people who would allow me to ask dumb questions and only work with people who believed in the creative vision of it enough that if I ask them कि ये हो जाएगा ना एडिट में शूट के टाइम पे, they won't get pissed at me because I know कि मैं नहीं किया तो ये सेट का काम, तो फिर you have to
The
account for
answer
that.
is always yes, Pulkit. हमेशा हो जाता है edit पे. पूरा करियर कटा है edit पे.
मैंने ADR किया है बाद में, so I don't actually know. There are going to be crises that are going to get out of hand, from what I understand. The day we were shooting, the morning I had called in 4 people who are in their 70s who were woken up 2 hours before their bedtime to come be extras in this thing for free. We found out that there was construction going on right next to the building we're shooting. And there's only one room that has the right light and everything. We've already picked out the room and it's right next to the room. I would literally say action. They would stop constructing outside. We would shoot the dialogue scene. Then we would say cut and they would start jackhammering and the cement roller would start. It's really funny because the real world would stop and the fictional world would start and then back and forth. We had to manage this the whole time, right? And for the first hour of the crisis, I kept the information to myself. Like, oh, I'll handle this. I'll talk to the guys. I'll pay them some money, make them go away. But the trick was to just tell the crew at the right time that, listen, we're doing our best. There is a crisis. And we didn't account for this. And then they're kind of on your side as well. So I think the whole image of the director being this all-knowing, all-controlling being, that also sets the wrong expectation.
Yeah, and in fact, Tanmay, to answer your question, because directing is so much more than the craft. You must learn the craft because at least वहां पर तो तुमको पता है कि तुम सही हो. जब सब कुछ तुम्हारे कंट्रोल के बाहर है, लेकिन तुमको पता है कि हाँ इस एंगल से उस एंगल में कट होगा और अच्छा लगेगा, या फिर तुम्हारे पास समय नहीं है और तुमको फटाफट एक सीन शूट करना है, तो व्हाट आर द 2 कैमरा एंगल्स which do the best justice to the scene. वहां पर क्राफ्टी काम आता है, तो बचाता क्राफ्टी. एंड दैट्स व्हाई द ट्रेनिंग शुड बी. मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ एडी बनना नहीं चाहिए, मैं तो हर किसी को एडवाइस करता हूँ कि 2-3 प्रोजेक्ट्स में तो एडी कर लो, बिकॉज उससे कम से कम मेरे जितना क्लूलेस नहीं लगोगे सेट पर कि भाई कुछ भी नहीं पता बंदे को. हाँ, लेकिन उससे ज्यादा नहीं होना चाहिए. पूरा ध्यान होना चाहिए क्राफ्ट को सीखने पर. और क्राफ्ट मतलब क्या? क्राफ्ट मतलब कैमरा और मोशन पिक्चर का क्राफ्ट, मूविंग इमेज का क्राफ्ट, हाँ, और दूसरा एडिट का क्राफ्ट, और तीसरा साउंड का क्राफ्ट. ये 3 चीजें सीखना ही पड़ेगा. एंड दैट्स व्हाई फिल्म स्कूल्स आर, in my opinion, whether you go to a film school or whether you become your own film schools are important, essential. Okay. It also helps because you want to work with the best possible crew and you want to maintain a certain respect in the eyes of your DOP. DOP को ये लगना चाहिए कि एकदम ही बेवकूफ है, उसको लगना चाहिए कि नहीं, इसको आता नहीं है ज्यादा, लेकिन बेसिक आता है. तो जब आप जो पुलकित कह रहा है वो मैं भी मेंटेन करता हूँ. मैं अक्सर लोगों को बोलता हूँ आप बताओ क्या करना है, मुझे नहीं पता, आप बताओ कि क्या करोगे, बट वो क्विकली एनालाइज करके मैं बोल सकता हूँ कि हाँ ये सही है, ये करते हैं. ओके, सो दैट्स व्हाई आई थिंक ट्रेनिंग इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, but sadly it's only a very small part of directing. The other part of directing is personality, and that unfortunately no one teaches you. Even in the best of film schools, they should have say 3 years of training as a leader. If you want to be a director, it's leadership, it's creative leadership, it's people management. It's you want your DOP to go along well with your production designer. I do things which are terrible. Okay, I think that there is a guy who is creating some problem in the crew. Okay? And I know I need to work with him anyway. So I'll ask him out for dinner. And I hate that. I hate having food with someone.
सैटी ने जिसके साथ डिनर किया पिछले 6 महीने में सब याद कर रहे हैं अभी.
तो अब मैंने क्या किया, मैंने रूल बना लिया, मैं सबके साथ करता हूँ जिससे स्टैंड आउट नहीं करेगा.
That sounds like a slippery slope. This is 1 year later he's telling us कि मैं पूरे बम्बई के हर क्रू में हर किसी के साथ डिनर कर रहा हूँ just to keep this
मेरा
going.
pre-prod शुरू हो रहा है अभी.
You do this with the key guys. You do this with the HODs. You do this with the actors. And you may not like this, but you're doing this why? Because a big part of leadership is rapport building.
Correct.
You need to build that rapport so that कल को crisis होगा तो बंदा ज्यादा ना चिल्लाएगा तब भी.
Correct.
समझ रहे हो? So a lot of this is personality thing. It comes down to that. It comes down to कि तुम्हारे फ्रेंड्स के साथ रिलेशनशिप कैसा है, तुम स्पोर्ट्स खेलते हो या नहीं खेलते, है ना, तुम्हारा बेसिक कंपैशन कितना है. इट एक्चुअली कम्स डाउन टू दैट. जिस दिन तुम अपने क्रू के लिए खड़े होकर बोलते हो कि यार ये खाना ठीक नहीं होगा तो मैं शूट नहीं करूंगा, उस दिन क्रू आपको इतना प्यार करता है, इतना प्यार करता है, आपको फील होता है वो. सो इट ऑल्सो कम्स डाउन टू कंपैशन, इट कम्स डाउन टू केयर, इट कम्स डाउन टू गिविंग इंपॉर्टेंस टू पीपल. सो दिस इज डायरेक्टिंग. Giving importance to people is directing. Giving importance to an actor who is there on your shoot for one day. तुम 100 दिन शूट कर रहे हो, एक एक्टर एक दिन के लिए आया है, उसको ये नहीं फील होना चाहिए कि वो टर्शरी कास्ट है, उसको फील होना चाहिए आज उसका दिन है.
तो सैट व्हेन वी वॉच मूवीज, जनता जब थिएटर से निकलती है तो बोलती है कि यार डायरेक्शन बढ़िया था, एंड 99% ऑफ पीपल डोंट नो कि डायरेक्शन अच्छा था कि नहीं. उनको बस मजा आया, बट दे aren't able to pinpoint the craft that made them enjoy it. So what is good direction and how can you spot good direction?
So ये I must admit, ये मुझे भी कई सालों तक पता नहीं था कि डायरेक्टर करता क्या है. जब मैं मेडिकल स्कूल में था और वहां पर लोग बोलते थे बहुत बढ़िया डायरेक्शन था, तो मैं मन ही मन सोचता था कि क्या पता यार तुमको क्या होता है डायरेक्शन, है ना. तो क्योंकि देखो, पुलकित नोज एंड पीपल हु राइट नो दैट स्क्रीन राइटर बहुत कुछ लिख के देता है. A lot of lovely moments are already written. तो जनता को क्या लगता है ना कि अगर तुमने प्यारे प्यारे मोमेंट्स क्रिएट कर दिए तो वो डायरेक्शन है. So when I am watching something and I want and when I feel that it's well directed, there are a few things there are a few parameters I have in mind. I remember Shakun Batra telling me, Shakun Batra, the director of Kapoor and Sons and Gehraiyaan. Shakun Batra told me, and he said that the director has only one job, and the job is to guard he needs to be the director is the guardian of the tone of the film. इसका क्या मतलब है कि अभी जैसे अभी हम लोग बात कर रहे हैं ना, अभी बैकग्राउंड स्कोर में एक बहुत ही फनी जैज म्यूजिक डालोगे तो ये पूरे कॉन्वर्सेशन का टोन चेंज हो जाएगा. लेकिन अगर तुम एक सॉम्बर स्ट्रिंग्स डाल दोगे तो इसका टोन कुछ और हो जाएगा, और तुम म्यूजिक हटा दोगे तो टोन कुछ और होगा. तो ये जिस तरह से म्यूजिक को यूज करके हमने टोन चेंज किया, उसी तरह अभी तन्मय तुम जैसे नॉड कर रहे हो, उससे एक टोन है. ठीक है, अभी मैं तुमको कान में आके कुछ बोलूंगा एज अ डायरेक्टर, तुम दूसरे तरीके से नॉड करने लगोगे, उससे टोन चेंज हो जाएगा अभी. राइट. तो इस तरह, हाँ ये देखो सो ये छोटी छोटी जितनी चीजें हैं सब मिलकर टोन बनाती हैं. इट्स लाइक कि तुम चाइनीज फूड खाने गए तो उसमें जितने मसाले पड़े हैं सब डिटरमिन करेंगे कि उस ओवरऑल फ्लेवर कैसा है. तो अगर फिल्म या जो भी प्रोडक्ट है वो टोनली कंसिस्टेंट है तो मुझे फील होता है कि डायरेक्शन अच्छा. अगर फर्स्ट सीन में ड्रामा लग रहा है, सेकंड सीन में अचानक स्लैपस्टिक कॉमेडी होगा, थर्ड सीन में अचानक बहुत भयंकर मेलोड्रामा हो गया, तो फिर वो टोनली ऑफ है, मतलब वो प्रॉब्लम डायरेक्टिंग का है. और दूसरी चीज जो है वो है कि विजुअल डिजाइन होता है, एक डिजाइन होता है चीजों का. जैसे मान लो मैं एक सीन कर रहा हूँ, उसमें मैंने 4 कैमरा एंगल लगा दिए और एडिट पे काट के कट करके सीन बनाया, और अगला सीन मैंने बनाया जिसमें कोई कट नहीं हो रहा, एक टेक में कैमरा बस घूम रहा है इन द स्पेस. अब ये दोनों डिजाइन लेवल पे बहुत डिफरेंट स्टाइल्स हैं. ओके, सब डायरेक्टर डिसाइड करता है. अगर आप एक लॉन्ग टेक देखते हो ना, आप 5 मिनट तक कैमरा कट नहीं हो रहा, जैसे आप गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर का पहला सीन देखो, गैंग्स ऑफ वासेपुर पार्ट 1 का पहला सीन, लंबा एक शॉट है जो चलता ही रहता है, जो टीवी से शुरू होता है क्योंकि सास भी कभी बहुत, और उसके बाद वो चलता ही रहता है. उसको एग्जीक्यूट करना ऑफ कोर्स डीओपी का काम है, और उसके एग्जीक्यूशन में बहुत क्रिएटिव इनपुट डीओपी का है, मगर वो डिसीजंस और वो फ्रॉम द विजन टू द स्टाइल टू द टोन टू द टाइमिंग, वो उसका गार्डियन डायरेक्टर होता है. सो दीज आर अ कपल ऑफ थिंग्स व्हिच आई कीप इन माइंड. एंड आल्सो आई थिंक द इजीएस्ट थिंग वुड बी when you see a good actor performing badly, it is the director's fault, and when you see an average actor performing well, it's the director's credit.
Funnily enough, no one knows what the conductor does either. So
yeah, no one knows what the conductor does.
Everybody
Everyone's like, ये बीच में कौन खड़ा है, बल्ले बल्ले कर रहा है, ये क्या चल रहा है इसके साथ. There are many movies, you know, David Fincher ले लो, or you know, many of the great directors where on paper you read something, it doesn't feel as impactful as when you see the scene, right? Like Whiplash is a great example. Pulkit, any scenes that you remember reading on paper and then watching the scene and being like, wow, this was not how I thought it would be, or this was done really well?
Eternal Sunshine comes to mind, where the ideas that were being explored were the same on the page and same on screen, but on the page it was chaos. It just felt like it was really hard to follow. It was hard to kind of get into a flow of reading it or even imagine it in a certain sort of coherent flow. But in the film, it's just perfectly coherent, right? It feels like natural.
Sad, what it feels like is that a lot of direction is like an on-the-job, like you learn a lot you grow a lot as a person on the job. But how is it going to aid folks to be a part of the fellowship? And what is going to happen in the fellowship that's going to make them stronger directors? Have you given that a thought yet?
See, it's a 2-year program. I can tell you what we are offering in this time span. One, the fellows will have free access to all the lectures that I conduct in these 2 years. So all lectures, irrespective of topic, they can attend. Secondly, I will be there to help these students make their short films, write their films. So from their screenwriting to their prep, to their shoot, to the post, to their film festival strategy, I will be there to help them in whatever degree I can. I don't think I can help in many ways, but I think having a mentor helps. When you are editing your film, you have someone who has an objective eye. These things will help. I'll of course help them with their script as well. Apart from that, they will have access to my process. So they will observe how I write, I direct, how I edit. They'll have access to my edit room. They'll have access to, say, when I go and do my sound mix, they'll come with me. So for these 2 years, I will be a part of their creative journey and they'll be a part of my creative journey. तो हम दोनों के बीच काफी ज्यादा क्राफ्ट का गिव एंड टेक होने वाला है. That is one. But क्राफ्ट के गिव एंड टेक के बियॉन्ड, जैसा हमने बात की, बहुत सारी चीजें हैं. So I'm developing modules on leadership for filmmaker. जनरली क्या होता है, हम लोग प्रॉब्लम जब क्राइसिस आती है लाइफ में, तो वी ईदर रिएक्ट और वी फ्ली. जनरली हम भाग जाते हैं या हम रिएक्ट करते हैं. देयर आर मेनी अदर वेज ऑफ सॉल्विंग क्राइसिस. वो मेथड जो है वो हम सीखने की कोशिश करेंगे कि जब क्राइसिस आएगा तो आप उसको कैसे सॉल्व करोगे. ओके, one of which could be that just understanding what are the situations you can change and what are the situations you cannot change. अगर कोई चीज आप चेंज ही नहीं कर सकते, उस पर आप अगर गुस्सा हो रहे हो या उस पर आप अगर फ्रेड कर रहे हो और टीम शेक कर रही है, तो वो गड़बड़ है. You should have the wisdom to know कि अभी कुछ नहीं किया जा सकता, तो अभी ऐसे ही करना पड़ेगा. A lot of it will also be emotional give and take. Basically, it's tough. The journey of a screenwriter and a filmmaker is tough. So I'll be there to, I don't know how much of help it will be, but I'll be there if they want to talk. I'll be there if they want to share their stress. जो भी उनके लाइफ में पेरेंट्स के से प्रेशर आ रहा है, या फिर कोई प्रोड्यूसर है जो taking the filmmaker for granted. So I'll be there.
बिल्डिंग में कंस्ट्रक्शन चल रहा है, that sort of stuff.
But this is me and the fellows. Apart from that, there is a lot. So I'll introduce them to professionals from the industry. Introduce them for what? Introduce them for guest lectures. So these professionals will come and they'll share their expertise. Secondly, I'll introduce them to these professionals for work, because this fellowship doesn't require you to give up your job and just do this for 2 years. This is like a parallel thing going on in your life. So if I introduce you to a filmmaker who is looking for a DA, and that filmmaker likes you, you are my fellow, but at the same time you are a DA to that filmmaker. We will encourage people to conduct group activities, जो हम फर्स्ट ड्राफ्ट में पहले भी करते थे. साथ में मूवी देखना, मूवीज को ब्रेक डाउन करना, साथ में स्क्रिप्ट पढ़ना, उसको ब्रेक डाउन करना, एक दूसरे में कोलैबोरेशन का कल्चर डेवलप करना. So all of this will be a part of fellowship. It won't be formally structured, but it will be structured. I would know that these are the things that, in fact, on the first day of the fellowship, I'll give them a checklist that if you want to make your first film, this is your checklist. And for the next 2 years, I'll help them check that list one by one, the items on the list one by one. That's the plan with the fellowship.
Love story hai ki nahi, item song hai ki nahi. That kind of checklist. The next question I have is, what is this fellowship not about? Who should not apply? Please don't send emails that say things like, please sir, एक chance दे दो. Just trust me, मैं दिल लगा के काम करूंगा. दिल लगाने वाले बहुत हैं, काम करने वाले बहुत हैं. That's not what we're looking for. The criteria is having already made one short film for sure.
See, Tanmay, I'll be honest. Pulkit is my ideal prototype. So,
Nepotism.
Huh. so if we,
you should make me apply, then not take me. That's the best thing to do.
Just to prove that we are against nepotism.
It would be the funniest outcome. I'll respect you for it. Yeah.
And of course, the last question before we go, Pulkit, you've been a part of First Draft, and then you moved on to directing your own work. Why should people apply, according to you?
I think beyond just having access to resources, because there's plenty out there, right? There's so many books and so many masterclasses and this and that. I think it's a peer group that is supportive and understands your your interests and who you are, who you can keep over time, and who can keep you both sincerely invested in your work and also kind of be objective about the quality of it. That's invaluable. I think the biggest takeaway apart from Sati's lectures and the material we consumed in first draft was the fellows that I got to meet. I think that's indispensable. I think it's really hard to find. And if you do find it, you have to find it one by one. You meet one person that just kind of gets you over one
The
meeting or
Lalit
one
to your
event.
Jatin is rare.
Yes, and you need like 6 Lalits as well. It's not like one, right?
Yeah.
So it takes a long time. So I think that was the biggest hack. It wasn't even industry connections or inlet into all those things can be managed. It was the peer group that we got. I think I trust Sati to foster that with this one as well, because it's more about sort of managing a team that kind of supports each other and lifts each other. Then that's the most important thing, and that's the biggest takeaway.
Pulkit's short film will also be in the pinned comments. Do check it out. I'm going to be linking in the description for more details that you can check out to apply for the First Draft Fellowship. The last date is 13th of May. So quickly go and apply, and very soon after that, you'll know if you made it through to the fellowship. And on that note, thank you very much, gentlemen. All the best for your directorial pursuits henceforth. And looking forward to see who the new fellows are. See you guys next time.